Evening and welcome to Long Road Sixth Form College Open Evening Live and welcome to the A-Level PE presentation. Next slide, Chris. My name is Pete Charlwood and I'm course team leader for the A-Level PE program. With me tonight is my colleague Chris Cope, who is not only a teacher on the course but is also the head of department for the sport, PE and healthcare. We're obviously gutted that we can't meet all of you face to face in these challenging times, but we hope from tonight, we can get across to you that, if you're serious about sport and you're serious about progression in the sports industry, then choosing Long Road, you're going to choose the sports department that has a long history in delivery of A-level PE and level 3 sport applied, has experienced and bespoke staff that are dedicated to going above and beyond in ensuring the best possible outcomes that we can. And our other goal is to really equip our students with the necessary tools and skills that will enable them to progress in the sports industry, whether that's onto university or perhaps even straight into the sports industry, into the workplace. Next. So if you're choosing A-level PE, and hopefully we can get across here tonight that what the course entails. And if you choose A-level PE, you're going to go on a journey through different aspects of the sports industry, but in particular, it really is the application of sports science. So to be blunt, it's a sort of applied science. It's a science-based course which is a great choice if you're thinking about going on to university, particularly to study sport and exercise science or other sports science-based degrees, but also really good if you're thinking about going on to any sort of leadership roles within the sports industry, whether it's teaching, coaching, physiotherapy, of course, sports therapy, nutrition, just to name a few. But we've also had students progress into other aspects of the sports industry like sports media and sports marketing. But we've got a few examples later on. The course is split, as you can see there on the slide. 70% is based on theory understanding and assessed by 2 exams, and then 30% is practical assessment. So just to go into a little bit more detail about that, you've got 5 key areas of the syllabus that make up that 70%. Those are exercise physiology, training and performance, where you're going to be studying human biology aspects. You're going to be looking at things like training principles, methods of training and energy systems. And again, a typical question in that area might be that you would hopefully learn what is the most effective and appropriate training program for cardiovascular endurance. Area 2, it looks at movement analysis, technology and biomechanics. Again, a typical question here might be looking at the optimal angle of release for a javelin thrower, or why is it that the ball swerves when we add spin to it? So again, application to performance in the sports industry. Area 3 is sports psychology. So this is the study of the mind, a study of behavior within the sports industry. Again, here we learn aspects like why is arousal so important to sports performance, your emotional control, and what is the optimal level of arousal for sports performance. Area 4 is skill acquisition. And this looks at effectively motor development. It looks at how we acquire skills. How does the body, the brain acquire skills? How do we learn skills? And again, we look here about, for example, you'd need to know what are the 3 stages of learning that we go through when we acquire a new motor skill. So you can see those 4 areas are all very science related subjects and branches of sports science. The one area that isn't is area 5, which is a sort of more sociological look at the sports industry, looking at things like contemporary issues, up-to-date contemporary issues within the sports industry, as well as a little bit of history where we look at the origins of sport and how sport has developed through history and influenced society, and how society has influenced sport. The other main component is the practical component. That's 30% of your grade, and you're assessed in this area by one, your chosen practical sport and your ability within that sport, which is 15%. You can choose to perform, or you can choose to coach for that 15%. The other area is your written coursework, which is again 15%, and that is effectively an investigative study where you look at the different aspects of your performance, you identify an area of weakness, and you try and aim to improve that area of weakness throughout a 10-week training program. So that makes up the basis of how the course is assessed. You can see there on the slide as well our entry requirements, and again you can obviously access that via the prospectus. But one thing I just want to emphasize here, we do allow a minimum of grade 4 in science, but as you can see from the science nature of this course, we're really looking for a 5 ideally, and we certainly would have a conversation about that regarding if you haven't got a 5 in science and suitability. Okay, so why choose A-level PE at Long Road? Well, again, I've mentioned the fact that we believe we've got really experienced staff that have been teaching PE for a number of years. Myself, I've been running and teaching A-level PE programs for the best part of 20 years. And also Chris Cope, who's been at Long Road for the best part of 30 years and been teaching A-level, and has also been a lead moderator within exam boards at Excel, and still today is a consultant for leading PE authors such as Jane Roscoe Publications, who still produce a high percentage of the text for many exam boards. Through the years, we've been with Educast, which is the exam board that we cover at Long Road. We have put together our own kind of bespoke lesson booklets, and we've had lots of positive feedback from students over the years regarding these. They are not all filled in with information. They're still required for the students to populate them, but they provide a template for students to record and then learn the necessary key aspects of the syllabus, and they are obviously linked to the Educast syllabus. Alongside that, we have a plethora of kind of revision resources as well that really support our students in how to revise and the most appropriate way to revise for the exams. We also feel at Long Road that if we've got excellent facilities, and we've also got a range of really good sports teams that you can choose. So again, as sports enthusiasts, that will be an important part, an integral part of your weekly life at Long Road. We're always on the lookout for workshops and additional things that can really support the learning and the development of students and the necessary skills, again, to provide insight into the sort of next stages of their career pathway. One that's become an annual event for us is working with Anglia Ruskin University. We take them now to an annual workshop that they put on, which is a day looking at different aspects of the sports and exercise science industry. So we spend the day with their sport and exercise science department and looking at, again, different career pathways within the sports industry, namely sports massage, strength and conditioning, physiotherapy workshops, and then aspects on biomechanics and performance analysis. These also complement the knowledge that they need to know for the course, and you know, obviously give them an insight and a bit of a hands-on approach to the sort of thing they might do at university, and of course if they went into that industry. We're still hopeful that we're going to be running that workshop again, even in these challenging times. Anglia Ruskin are going to be doing that remotely for us this year. So just as I mentioned earlier, to give you a bit of an example of the types of courses that you can access if you're thinking about going on to university. Typical courses that our students access are physiotherapy courses, as you can see there, nutrition and health, sport and exercise science, again, a number of universities, and obviously teaching degrees is also a very common progression route from A-level PE. So whether it's either direct into teaching with a full QTS degree, or doing a sport and exercise science and then doing a sort of additional QTS year on top of that. So again, just as a couple bespoke examples, over the last few years, again, we've had a number of students go on and study those specific courses. We had Hannah from a few years ago, who is now actually in her final year on a QTS teaching degree in Brighton, and she's doing very well. We've got Libby, who's just left us last year, who is now going and embarking on her degree of sport and exercise science at Loughborough. And then from a couple of years ago, Matt, who achieved a CMPE but went on to do sort of sports media and marketing at Sheffield, and as part of that degree we ended up on an England basketball camp as part of the media and tech support team. So that brings me to the end of my sort of part of the presentation and the session. We're now going to hand over to Chris Cope, who's going to be taking you through some Q&A with some of our students to give you a student's perspective of the A-level PE course at Long Road.
My role today is
Chris, you're muted, I think.
Yeah, basic error there. Okay. So my role today is to introduce a number of our students to you, and then run through a number of questions that we might think will give you an insight into what it would be like to study A-level PE at Long Road. The students know the questions, but they've had no briefing as to what they should say whatsoever. So the questions will be the answers that they want to give, and we'll have a sort of discussion with the students following on from their comments to you. But they're all on our A-level PE course currently. They're all in the second year, and with a little bit of luck, they'll all be sitting the exam next summer. So first up is Jake. So Jake, I'm going to sort of send you live now. Get rid of my ugly mug, and you'll be there in a moment, Jake. Okay, Jake, can you hear me okay? At the moment, Pete, it's not going to send it live. Yeah.
Okay, so try
Jake, at the moment, it won't for some reason send you live. Let me just try. Let me try Izzy. See if I can get Izzy live. Okay, so Izzy, you're just going to sort of step in, as it were, whilst I try and do the sort out the IT for Jake. And your question, Izzy, was with reference to classroom lessons. Is there a particular task or activity that you enjoyed and you felt contributed to your understanding of A-level PE?
Yeah, so last year when doing the skill acquisition unit, we did a really fun juggling activity, which enabled us to see how the stages of learning, really explain them and understand them really well. And also we use like the resources you give us are really good for revision, and yeah, they make you already have the resources there, so it's really easy.
Yeah, one of the interesting things you mentioned there is, which unfortunately because of the current situation we haven't been able to do as many of those sort of practical based lessons, but I remember the juggling one, that's sort of always a popular one, and it's a good way of trying to understand how the theory that we do in the classroom then links to a sort of practical performance, even though it's only a sort of basic juggling skill. So yeah, many thanks for that, Izzy. I'm now going to try sending Evie over to the live box, Evie. So if you just give me a moment. Okay, Evie. So my question to you is, you're one of the students that increasingly over the last couple of years have taken both A-level PE and they've taken that alongside the 60 credit sports diploma. And I wondered, Evie, if you could perhaps run through what you think are the benefits of taking these two subjects together.
Well, there's quite a lot of overlap between them, which has really helped me understand both courses much easier. And I also chose to do them because I want to do sport at university. So obviously with the A-level, it's just the linear exam, but then with the diploma, it's coursework and independent work. So I wanted to show universities that I was able to work both ways, which is why I chose to do both. And
you've been very successful, if I'm honest with you, Evie, on both courses. You know, you've scored very well on both. And what are you looking to study at university?
Sport and medical sciences.
Do you know where yet? Have you chosen any places yet, Evie?
Either Bath, Nottingham, King's College London, or Birmingham.
Okay, so yeah, you picked 4 sort of top end places to go, but again, with the predicted grades that you're getting then, Evie, that should be, you know, they should be very interested in you as a student. And it is interesting that you talk about the independent study, because I may well come back to that in a few minutes. I'm going to nip back to Izzy now. We're now in the sort of, let's see how good they are on their feet now, because unfortunately Jake seems to have we don't seem to be able to establish the link with Jake. So I'm going to have to ask you a couple of questions that you may not necessarily have prepared for. But Izzy, I'm going to sort of ask you a slightly loaded one, because you were in the workshops this afternoon. So your question is, what sort of support outside of the classroom is available to help in your study of A-level PE?
I think there's lots of support. As you mentioned, the workshops every Tuesday and Wednesday. There's workshops at 2:35, which are really good times if you're struggling a little bit, or if you don't understand certain bits of the course. You can just go to Chris or Pete, and they're really helpful. Just like little one-to-one sessions. Sometimes there are a few of you, but they're really good, especially now when you go into year 2 near the exam time. You can just recap all your knowledge and get as best grade as you can.
Yeah, I think, you know, today the penny is beginning to drop, Izzy, because there were 15 people at the workshop today, which is, you know, the highest we've had, and then Pete had 9 on the Tuesday. So just to give people an idea, Izzy, because it's the work outside the classroom, to be honest, that is so crucial to student success. So just run through for the people who are listening in what sort of things you did today and those around you did as part of the workshop.
So today some people focused on our coursework element, as we have to get sections 1 and 2 in to be marked, and then also Chris gave us some worksheets and booklets. So we're looking at key terms and definitions, so we don't waste small marks, so we can try and get up a grade boundary.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks a lot, Izzy. So yes, those sort of key definitions that students often don't like learning, the 50 plus definitions. The Quizlet is nearly complete, Izzy, so I shall be checking you all on that one. In fact, I'll be sending it out to you quite shortly. Evie, I'm going to sort of come back to you again now. You two are both going to be, as I say, have to help us out by covering a couple of the questions that Jake wasn't able to cover, because we seem to have lost him. But and this is a more sort of general question that covers both PE and the college as a whole. How have you found your PE groups? I mean, I know you're both in the same group, but Evie, you'd also be able to talk about your sport apply group. So you know, what are the groups like?
Well, in both groups, everyone gets on really well. It's really easy. Like if you don't understand, it's really easy to like sit and talk about it with the person next to you. The groups are quite, especially in the sport class, the groups are quite small, so it's quite easy to get one-to-one help with teachers as well. Yeah.
It's interesting again because neither Izzy or Evie were in obviously last night in the student panel, but one of the common points that was raised by the students yesterday was how friendly they found the classes. And now obviously we were just talking about PE, but I do think it's fair to say that Longroad is a sort of welcoming college, and that students generally find that they have a really enjoyable time, very different from schools, that's for sure. And they were the group you're in, that you two are in for A-level PE is about 21, which is sort of a reasonably large group. But the group you're in, as you said, Evie, for the sport applied is a smaller group. That's about 15 students. But the average group size at Longroad is around about 18 students in total. So let me just again go back to Izzy and sort of move you over to the live box, Izzy. And you and Evie are sort of in the same group, but the dynamics are very strong in that group. And I would sort of just broaden the question out a bit, Izzy, about how you think, again, it's different, how you found it, even in the sort of current times, before we went into the restrictions, how Longroad differs from schools, both in the lessons, and also, Izzy, you could chat, as Emily did last night, about the netball that you do as one of the extracurricular activities.
Yeah, so I think Longroad is just a really fun environment, and everyone's so friendly. Like the help everyone can give you is so good, especially in classes, like in our PE class, everyone's really friendly. We all get on really well. I've made a lot of new friends from it, which is really exciting. There's also a lot more freedom at Longroad. That's how it differs from secondary. You have a lot more independent study, but there's also the support there to help you when you need it. And yeah, I play for the Longroad netball team. Unfortunately, at the moment, we can't play due to COVID, but we were really successful last year and we won a number of matches, and I think we're in Division 1.
That's right, yes, yeah. It's so unfortunate that this year's been messed up, because that would have been the highest division we've ever played in. I've been here nearly 30 years, and you know, you had a really strong team last year, and I think you had a really good team. It's such a shame that you're going to miss out on that Division 1 British Colleges League. But as I say, I mean, I'm not saying it's got a silver lining, is it? But it does mean that there may be additional time that you can perhaps put towards all your A levels. I mean, it's not. I know it's not a fantastically exciting opportunity, but it probably is, you know, a good thing to think about. And I'm hugely grateful to you, Evie and Izzy, for stepping in today. And I shall now let you off the hook. I'll quickly finish this section off, and then I'll go back to Pete. So many thanks, Evie, and many thanks, Izzy, for your help tonight. So we'll be going back to my colleague Pete just to finish the talk off. But I think it's fair to say that what students do outside of lessons in PE is going to be much more influential in many ways than what they do in the lessons. In fact, the kids will turn up and they're always well behaved, don't have any problems with them. But it's what you do outside of the lessons that's going to be so important, particularly for students that are after the high grades. And I think that's really worth bearing in mind if you're thinking of doing A-level PE, because it is really much more scientific now than it has been in the past, and the theory element is much greater, as Pete identified earlier on. We've got around about 4 or 5 minutes left. I'm going to pass you back now to Pete, who started, and he's going to sort of finish the presentation for A-level PE for you. I'll just cue him up and then send him live. Yeah, let me move my thing over, Pete.
Thank you, Chris. So hopefully that has given you a good insight into the sort of makeup of A-level PE, what it entails, Again, I would reiterate just what Chris said. You know, it is a theory-based course at A level and at level 3, as most are. You know, it's 70% of your grade is on your ability to be successful in 2 theory exams. Obviously, we do many practical elements within in a normal world within the learning journey across the 2 years. You know, we try and do many things as practical as we can. If there's theory that can be covered in a practical way to help your understanding and to help the students' understanding, we obviously do that. Obvious ones are sort of Chris usually takes the students out for the methods of training and puts them through their paces to get a clear understanding of the different methods of training. And again, whenever it's possible, we're all sort of active people and sports people, and myself and Chris are still very passionate about being active and promoting that. So we do try and do as much as we can. But the reality is it's a theory-based course and it's a science-based course. 4 out of those 5 areas that we study are from the sports science industry. But again, a great feeder into that part of the sports industry. And if you're really, like I said at the start, if you're serious about progressing into that part of that sort of area of the sports industry, then I really highly recommend that you pick PE. You can obviously put it with other sciences, which gives it even more strength. But it's worth noting that A-level PE has its own clout, you know, as a science-based subject at university. So it does hold its own. But of course, if you're really going into high-end sort of physiotherapy, it's still generally a pretty good idea to sort of pair it up with a biology or a single science of some sort. Okay, so we're shortly come to the end of the session. As you can see on the slide in front of me, just to highlight the welcome days that are coming in June. Obviously, all being well, our plan is to have you all, those that are holding offers at that point, to come in and actually meet and do some activities based on the A-level PE course. We'll give you some sort of indication as to the type of lessons that, and what we do, and a bit more hands-on how we do things in the classroom, and obviously that might help in any sort of final decisions if they need to be made. And again, open evenings in June that are we'll be holding our normal open evenings again, all fingers crossed and all being well, which are normally for the year 10s in June 2021. But of course, again, if you're still at that point want to come around and get a real feel for the place, we're going to inviting your year 11s in as well at that point. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the session. I think there's one more slide, Chris, if just on to finish us off. So yeah, bringing us to the end of the session. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. Hopefully that's been informative, and you can see there, please stay in touch. You can ask questions, please email us at Long Road if you want any further information or questions about A-level PE. Thank you very much, and good night.